I want to change the world. I want to help people less fortunate than I am. I want to make a difference in their lives. Those are my thoughts growing up watching charity ads on TV, sending celebrities abroad to save people in poverty, and being exposed to the glamour of charity work. Before I started my degree, I was lucky enough to travel the world, meet people like myself who wanted to make the world a better place, who wanted to end world hunger, make poverty history, fight for equality and justice. We all had the same passion, but I wasn't sure how to put my passion into action. It turned out to be pretty simple. I Googled it. I Googled how to help poor people. And suddenly all these organisations popped up on my screen, selling me a once-in-a-lifetime experience, a cultural experience, an experience that will make a difference. It was an industry conveniently combining volunteering and tourism, an industry that told me that people in low-income countries needed me. And for only £1,000 a week, I could go off, change their lives, relieve their suffering, add some skills to my resume. But the best part was, relevant skills or experience were not required. And that was it. I found it, the way to change the world. It's simple, isn't it? Let me introduce you to Voluntourism, where I was sold that once-in-a-lifetime trip to travel and contribute a few weeks of giving back to the communities I visited. My first trip was in India when I was 18 years old. I participated in a teaching project working alongside a qualified Indian teacher. The organisation I was with never gave me a set curriculum to follow, so I made up the lessons as I went along. I got back to London a few weeks later, feeling that I'd made a difference. I did good, and I felt good. It was only until later on I started to question my intentions and why I was there. If there was already a qualified Indian teacher on this project, why was I there? The teacher was a lot more skilled and experienced than I was at 18 years old, fresh from my A-levels, which I barely did well in. And now I was given a responsibility to deliver quality education. I realised teaching was probably not the best way to make a difference, but surely the world needed healthcare volunteers. So I gave it another go at changing the world and went to Ghana on a medical experience project. I was travelling around rural Ghana with volunteers. Some were qualified medics and others were not. Despite the skill mix, we went around villages to set up mini clinics, dress wounds, donate some medical supplies. After only a few days though, I decided to leave. What I saw and experienced truly disturbed me. The organisation I was with orchestrated parades and celebrations. Whenever we arrived in a village, we'd have children running up to us, singing songs and praise, dancing in crowds, whilst the organisation filmed this whole entire moment. This whole spectacle was dehumanising and undignified. In these promo videos, we were painted as the heroes. Were we really the heroes? Were we really making a difference? One day I brought a child into a clinic with suspected malaria. And I remember the nurse's reaction to me. She rolled her eyes and said, "Another one of you lot brought the same girl in here yesterday. Why come here when we are already here?" She made a point. That phrase still resonates with me. Why come here when we are already here? So why was I there? I was there because I was told I was needed. From a young age, the only images of low-income countries I had were of children unkempt, communities deprived, followed by people from higher income countries appearing to save them from their misery and put a smile on their face. These images are still prevalent today in marketing international volunteer projects. Some of these projects cost up to £1,000 a week. So volunteers with good intentions would invest their time and their money into projects such as teaching, construction, conservation, childcare. Whilst most of the time these organisations do not require relevant skills or experience, and at worst they fail to run thorough background checks. From my experience, these projects are designed for us, and not the host community. And that's a problem. We're paying for an experience that only benefits us and fulfills our altruistic desires, with limited long-term benefits for them. So, is voluntourism doing more harm than good? I think so. Here's the elephant in the room. We are making poverty a tourist attraction. One way we have done this is through the business of orphanages. Orphanages are a top destination for voluntourists, where they can go and play with kids, donate some nice things, show some general love, care and affection to a vulnerable group of children. Keep in mind what I said earlier. Some organisations fail to run thorough background checks on these volunteers. Orphanages are seen as business ventures. They purposely have unlivable conditions with inadequate resources to care for children. Yet these same orphanages have a constant stream of volunteers donating and paying to be there. Research continues to tell us that institutionalizing children is harmful to a child's development. When you think about a child running up to you seeking affection, it may appear on the surface as a sweet gesture, but in reality is a sign of an attachment disorder, resulting from a revolving door of short-term volunteers offering love, leaving and then never returning. There are 8 million of these children living in orphanages, yet 80% of them are not real orphans. They have at least one living parent. Not only are children placed in orphanages due to socioeconomic factors, but children are continuing to be separated from their families and trafficked as income generators for the volunteer tourism industry. This is an abuse on the rights of the child, and children have now become commodities. In some ways, we are also susceptible to these exploitative strategies. Whilst on these projects, I witnessed groups of volunteers hand out donations to the locals, with good intentions, of course. After speaking with some locals, I discovered that on a weekly basis, volunteers would come and donate books, toiletries, clothes. To the point they received so many, they started to sell them. I respected their hustle, an initiative to make a business from the volunteers' charity. But what I don't respect are these organisations' false representation of how helpless these people are, as if they have nothing. Another story I heard goes like this. Volunteers fundraised thousands of pounds to go and build a school, which is all well and good, but none of them had any construction experience. So they attempted to build this school. Little did they know, every evening the local labourers would knock down their work and rebuild it themselves overnight. Once complete, the volunteers took their selfie, made it to the school newsletter, and got all the credit for building this school. That money they fundraised could have been used a lot better. Instead of paying for their flight ticket, perhaps that money could have been given to the local labourers to work and build a school for their community. See, by having these volunteers work for free, this puts skilled individuals out of work, jeopardising that community's chance for real growth. Can you imagine what this must do to an economy? Are we also culprits in keeping the poor poor? This is what needs to change. I've grown tired of seeing the same poverty porn in the media, painting low-income countries as totally incapable and in need of services from volunteers who are not skilled or experienced. This type of content is what creates harmful stereotypes of the world's poorest. They deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, but we've exploited them as props for the volunteer tourism industry. These people are skilled workers, they're activists, and they deserve a platform to celebrate the work they're doing in fighting for change. But it's not too late to make a difference. We need to take sustainability seriously. We have funded too many people to go on their trips to offer a band-aid, when we should be focused on long-term solutions. We have 17 Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations to achieve by 2030. I'm concerned that volunteer tourism is disrupting us from doing that. For example, goal number 3, for good health and well-being, we need to stop allowing untrained volunteers to treat sick people. Goal number 4, for quality education, we need to stop sending volunteers with no experience with children to teach. Goal number 8, for decent work and economic growth, we need to invest in local communities and not replace skilled workers with free and inefficient labour. I have a question to leave you with. What does global citizenship mean to you? For me, it's understanding the world and my place in it. It's taking an active role in my community for a fair and sustainable society. I want to be a better global citizen. I want to see less corruption and exploitation for the world's poorest. And here's where we can begin. By stopping poverty becoming a tourist attraction.